if you've ever tried having a real conversation online,
Hmm.
like beyond just a quick looks good on a document or trying to engage in some forum, it's tough, right?
Oh, absolutely.
How do you get past those, drive-by I agree comments or make sure your actual point doesn't just vanish into this like wall of text nobody reads? We dug into this really interesting set of best practices for peer discussions, but they aren't just stuffy rules. They're like
Yeah.
super specific, actionable steps, almost a blueprint for having real online engagement.
Exactly. And I think, for anyone wanting a bit of a shortcut to being a better digital communicator, this is pretty key. We're not seeing them as like annoying hurdles. We're kind of dissecting them as strategies, like how to turn a simple reply into something richer, something that sticks. And the source material doesn't just say what to say, it gets into how to structure it, the engineering behind making sure your thoughts land.
Yeah, the engineering of it. And it starts right away with baseline stuff, doesn't it? Like
Right.
you have to reply to at least 2 people. They even nudge you towards 3 by Sunday night, which, okay, it's logistics, but it immediately signals something, right? This isn't passive. You got to be in there contributing regularly. It's about sparking that dialogue.
And that feeds right into the main idea, doesn't it? Because online discussion is just inherently tricky. So the way you structure your response, that intentionality becomes paramount.
How so?
Well, it's less about just dumping information and more about being super deliberate in how you deliver it, making sure the medium itself doesn't water down your message.
Okay, so let's get into that. The human touch first, maybe.
Yeah.
Because rule number 1 is simple. Almost feels too simple. Always start with hi name, a salutation.
Yeah, it seems basic, right? But they actually spell out why. It's not just manners. It's like cognitive discipline.
Cognitive discipline.
Well, it forces you to consciously think, okay, I'm talking to this person, and makes you more likely to address their specific points instead of just using their post as a springboard for whatever you wanted to say anyway.
Right, so it anchors you to their comment. Okay.
Exactly. Establishes that direct connection. And then bam, right after that, it pivots to the kindness mandate. Be kind, be respectful, pretty standard stuff.
Sure.
But here's the twist. The source actually pushes for disagreement. It says that kind of respectful friction, it's great for a discussion.
Okay, wait. Hold on. That sounds potentially tricky. You have to be kind, respectful, but you should disagree. How do you manage that without it becoming, like they say, a petty argument?
Yeah.
Especially when tone is so hard online.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think the key is prioritizing the ideas over maybe personal feelings. The source basically argues that just agreeing all the time, that kills innovation in a discussion, which leads straight to this bold rule, the anti-agreement rule. You are told to avoid just saying, I agree. If that's all you do, you've kind of failed the mission.
Wow, okay. Avoid agreeing. I actually think that's kind of brilliant strategically.
Yeah.
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 Because we've all seen it, right? In meetings, someone just parrots the boss.
Yeah.
Or online, you get that cascade of, yep, totally,
Yeah.
this comments. What's the actual cost when everyone just immediately agrees?
Well, the cost is stagnation, right? Ideas just sit there. You miss out on the other angles, the what-ifs, the critical counterpoint. You lose that edge. So by mandating respectful disagreement, you're basically forcing people to think divergently. You have to explain why you see it differently or how you tweak their idea. It makes the whole conversation smarter. You engage with the substance, not just nod along.
Okay, so tone set, disagreement encouraged. Now we get to the substance part, and this is where it gets really specific. Your reply needs meat. Supporting info, 100 words or more. That forces you to go deeper than just an opinion.
That's the gatekeeper, yeah. The 100-word minimum. It stops the really superficial replies. If you have to hit 100 words, you pretty much have to give examples or explain your reasoning or explore the consequences. You have to show your work, basically. It ensures the quantity pushes for quality.
But, okay, 100 words.
Yeah.
That immediately brings up the wall of text problem.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to read a dense block online. So how do they tackle that? Because that's a real killer for engagement.
They have a structural fix for that.
Yeah.
Very specific. Anti-wall of text engineering, you could call it. That 100+ words has to be chopped up into tiny paragraphs, only 1 to 3 sentences each.
Whoa. 1 to 3 sentences. That sounds super rigid. Does that even work? Doesn't it make everything sound choppy or, I don't know, unnatural?
It might sound rigid, but it's designed purely for how we read online. Think about it. We scan, right? We look for entry points.
Yeah.
Short paragraphs mean lots of white space. It makes it easy to skim and grab the main point of each little chunk. It forces clarity in each short burst, respects the reader's attention span, and makes sure every new idea is like instantly visible.
Okay, I see. So the combo is
Yeah,
you demand the depth with the 100 words, but you guarantee it's easy to read with these micro paragraphs.
exactly.
Substance and scannability. That's actually pretty clever for online communication. Best of both worlds.
Precisely. So we've got the substance sorted, the structure sorted, but, a great structure doesn't matter if nobody actually responds to you, right? How do we turn this back and forth into a real group chat?
Right, the conversation driver. And that brings us to maybe the most crucial part, the ending.
Yeah.
The question.
Yes. The rule is clear. End your response with a substantive question aimed right back at the person you're replying to.
And substantive is doing a lot of work there, isn't it? It can't just be, so what do you think?
No way. That's low effort. It invites a low-effort reply. A substantive question makes them think. It makes them connect the dots, maybe apply the idea you just discussed to something new.
Can you give an example? Like, make it concrete.
Sure. Okay, say your peer posted about ethical issues in AI development. A weak question is just, are you worried about AI?
Right. Pretty generic.
A substantive one hooks back into their point. Like, okay, given what you said about data privacy, how could that ethical framework actually work in, say, a fast-paced startup environment where they don't have time for long reviews? See, it pushes their idea forward into a new context.
Got it. It builds directly on what was said. And then there's the formatting requirement for this question, which is really specific and clearly intentional. It has to be on its own line, a separate paragraph, 80 in bold.
Yep. It's not just decoration, it's a visual flair, a call to action, basically. The source is explicit. Doing this makes sure the peer and everyone else reading sees it. They can't miss it.
Ah, so it stops them from just reading your thoughtful 100 words and scrolling on.
Exactly. It practically forces them to engage again. It turns two separate statements into a visible back-and-forth dialogue that invites others in, too. You're literally using bold text to guarantee engagement. Pretty smart.
And the final piece is timing, right? The advice is simple. Get in early. Don't wait until Sunday night at 11:59 p.m.
Right. Post your replies as soon as you can after the initial posts go up.
And the payoff is, what? Just getting it done.
No, it's strategic. If you post early, your thoughtful reply, your great question, it's visible for longer. More people see it, more people might jump in.
Ah, so your ideas end up being discussed more.
Exactly. Your contribution shapes the conversation for longer, which ultimately makes the whole thing feel easier and, frankly, more rewarding because you actually started something.
Okay, so let's boil this down. The key takeaways for effective online discussion based on this really structured approach are, 1, hit that 100-word depth.
Right. Substance matters.
2, don't just agree. Embrace that respectful disagreement to push thinking.
Yeah, friction is good.
And 3, maybe the biggest lever, use that bolded, substantive closing question, like a giant flashing arrow saying, your turn.
Absolutely. That visual CTA.
And these aren't just rules for some class forum, are they? This feels like a blueprint for, I don't know, writing better work emails, clearer feedback, maybe even running team chats more effectively.
Totally. I mean, these specific rules, the name, the short paragraphs, the bold question, they're like a cheat code for being clearer and more memorable online. You're respecting people's time and attention while making sure your own complex thoughts actually get across properly.
So the whole system is built to turn these kind of one-way broadcasts into actual back-and-forth dialogue, which leads to a final thought maybe. If the real measure of success for a response is the question it sparks, how much of our day-to-day communication, at work or wherever, is basically just an answer, a statement that just sort of sits there because we forgot to add that bolded critical prompt inviting the next step?
Ooh, that's a good question. Makes you think about your own emails, doesn't it? Are they conversation starters or just information drops?
Exactly. Something to chew on next time you hit send.